Welcome back to another episode of Let's Get Unreal. It's Brant, not Brent here, and today we're going to be building a treehouse. So I kind of had this idea for a build in the back of my mind ever since I got into Unreal Engine, and that was to build this super crazy, insane treehouse. You know, it's something that every kid probably dreams of doing, but you never really have all the materials or parts needed to do something like this. But the problem I ran into here was that I was making this project inside of Unreal Engine and it was either way too complicated or way too simple. So what I really wanted to do was find like a middle point where it could still be a really impressive treehouse, but not just too crazy. And unfortunately, it kind of started getting to the more crazier part of it because it started driving me insane by the end of the build. But that's enough chatting for now, so let's get into the build and see what happens. So I really wanted to find a really fat tree that I'd be able to use to support the weight of this crazy treehouse I was going to build, and not trying to be rude to the tree or anything like that, but the tree had to be really fat with a really wide trunk. And the name of this tree that I found was called Ebony. It was kind of weird name, but it's an ebony tree. I think I found it in a rainforest pack that I had, but it ended up being the thickest trunk that I could use for this type of build. Now, every time I went to research tree houses, I always kept going back to these pictures of like the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse at Disneyland. I think that's now, it changed over to the Tarzan treehouse, but I think it changed back to the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse again. So I want to say that this treehouse is inspired by the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. I even tried to watch part of the movie, but I couldn't make it through too much. So that is what you'll see a lot of the influence of this treehouse, I think, comes from, but it's also like totally different. So trust me, you'll see. Now, what's great about these ramps over here is that, you could fit a lot of people on them. And I was originally debating that, what kind of treehouse would I want to build? Should I just have some simple ladder that goes up? And that kind of made it like way too easy of a treehouse to build. So adding these ramps, and I know looking back on it now that this like makes sense for Disneyland. So like I said, this is kind of modeled after the Swiss Family Robinson, but it ended up being looking really cool in the end. So another advantage of having these ramps is I think it could kind of be like wheelchair accessible, except for the stairs in a few places, but you could definitely roll a wheelchair up to this treehouse if you could get over the initial stairs. But mainly this is going to be the walkway for all the visitors, whoever wants to come up and live in the treehouse. Now, the one negative thing I will say about this is that there's not really a way to prevent some kind of break-in, so there isn't really any security here. Like, you could just walk right up off the street and come into the treehouse. But this is a pretty safe neighborhood. The only other person that's living in this neighborhood right now is Chuck over from the tiny home build. You can see over there sometimes the edge of the shot. But so this treehouse is basically the neighbor of Chuck. So we don't really need to worry about crime or anyone breaking in at this point. Maybe we can add some kind of security devices or security measures at a later point in time, but for right now you'll be safe. If someone wants to just come up and check out the treehouse, they can just walk right up the stairs and up the ramp. Now, I do love the way these modular pieces work here, and you've heard me talk about that before on my other builds, but just being able to put these together like kind of like Lego or something like that, it really let me just go crazy and build this ramp that I kind of just imagined out of my head after seeing some pictures from Swiss Family Robinson, the way that ramp worked. But yeah, it was really nice. Like I said, it's very relaxing, just kind of building these modular pieces, putting them together, and the way it wraps around the tree here is really cool. I guess it started getting a little annoyed with just the way the support structures worked, lining them up, and having to resize those. But so yeah, I was still really enjoying the build here. You see, I had to kind of reshape the tree a little bit. I had to move it over to just so it could fit like perfectly in between. Now, if you'll see that the ramps and these little bridges have rope, handrails or hand guards, and this isn't meant to, for too much protection, because you could easily fall over these, I'm sure, if you were walking up it. But when you turn this into a game and play this does have, a collision set up, so the model will not run off the ramp and they'll be able to easily just go up the ramp into the treehouse. So compared to actually building the actual treehouse itself, these ramp stair parts were kind of it was an easier part of the process because it gets more complicated as I build the actual parts of the treehouse, but it was kind of starting to feel like it was dragging on here a little bit, and you can see that we are kind of getting to the end of it now. We're gonna do one last kind of long part here, and then the next 180-degree turn we do coming back the other way will take us up to the main part of the treehouse, like the entrance. But you can see the supports here are just getting crazy long. I mean, this is probably like, you know, 30 feet up in the air. So, but definitely if you fell off here, you would not have a good time. I'm sure you'd break some bones. Now, I was originally concerned about, you know, how many support beams you'd be able to see. And really what I did later is you'll see that, actually I don't show this part of the build, but later on I just add trees, some foliage down there just to kind of, you know, cover it up. But I think it's fine for what it is. You know, the supports are needed for the ramps, and I'll be able to cover it up a little bit later. Plus, I was also thinking that for the final shots I show for you guys, like kind of the final walkthrough, I'll be doing it at night. So I think this is just gonna look super cool at night, but we'll get more to that later. But yeah, so I wouldn't worry about all the support beams. So here you can see I'm kind of making the final little area until we get, you know, up into the treehouse. And I actually had some problems here just with lining everything up and the way I wanted this to go. You know, when I first started this, I pretty much sketched this out, this whole idea of what I was going to do, and it just, these things just don't work out exactly the way you want it to in the end. Like I had this, you know, ramp that would come up perfectly in a line with the tree, and it just didn't work out exactly. So you'll see here I have to, you know, after I line up these stairs, I start putting the main part of the treehouse in, and it's just, it's kind of getting complicated here, just starting to line everything up the way I want it. So one of the big positives of this project is that, you know, building a treehouse, you have no set plans. You can just like kind of freestyle the whole thing. That's actually a negative too, because with, you know, a tiny home or a house, it's almost as if you're building on a grid system, and here you just don't have that. So on one hand, I'm free to build wherever I want. I can build wherever in the tree. But on the other hand, things don't line up exactly the way you want it because it's, you know, there's no grid and you're just kind of doing it freestyle. So we finally made it up to the base layer of the treehouse. There's going to be 3 layers here, kind of 3 stories or 3 separate areas. But, you know, the base house has got to be about, I'd say like 50 to 60 feet in the air, if not higher. I mean, this is really high. You know, a lot of the other just tree houses I looked at in other builds for other games and stuff, they were just small, down to like 10 feet off the ground. So I thought this was going to be really impressive making it this high up. Here I started using you know, a much more sturdier guardrail type of fence deal instead of just the ropes, and this should provide much more of like a secure wall, so you could still flip over it, but it's going to keep you safe pretty much for all intents and purposes. And funny enough, I ended up not enjoying working with these fences or little walls, whatever you want to call them, as much as I did with working the picket fences for the tiny home builds. There's something just about these fences I didn't like placing. I didn't like resizing them. They didn't line up the way I wanted them to, so I started getting frustrated with them. Here I start laying down the first set of stairs for the second part, or I guess feature of the treehouse, which will be like this. It'll be like a kind of a place for whoever lives here to go relax or maybe eat a meal away from the main area. So this is kind of like a more personal area you could go to, but you'll see more on that when I add more detail to it later. But for now, I'm just going to lay this first set of stairs, which will take us up to the ramp, and then I'm going to add more guardrails in place so you don't fall off the edge and kill yourself. Now, at this point, since my original plans didn't go as well as I wanted them to, like I had this like sketched out and things just weren't lining up the way I wanted them to, so I kind of just started freestyling the design here and making things fit the way I wanted them. It didn't go exactly as I wanted, but I think it turned out pretty well for this room over here. I won't call it a room, but the second area of the treehouse. Now, another really weird thing I ran into building this was that the tree would have like different states of movement and size, and it's kind of hard to explain, but when you start, I guess, like simulating or playing the game, the tree actually like moves, like it breathes, and I think it has something to do with the wind system. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the wind system, because I could set the wind to stop and the tree would stop, but there was still movement in some parts of the branches. Like you can see right now, you can easily see the the leaves kind of moving and breathing with everything, but actually parts of the trunk were doing this too, and it was really messing with the build. Like stuff was not lining up because of the trunk moving and breathing with the wind, and I had to go in and I turned off all the settings for the trunk to not move anymore, and that fixed it at first. Like it stopped moving, but then when I would play the game it would start moving again. So I don't know why that happened, and I wasn't able to actually turn it off, but everything looks really good in the editor. I really like also how in some of these shots you can see Chuck down there over his tiny home build. He's just sitting or standing in his yard, probably just going, you know, what the hell is going on over there? But it's funny, you can see him. And part of my overall idea is I'm gonna have this giant neighborhood of just builds like lining the street, and there'll be all different kinds of things. I mean, one lot could have like a tree house, another lot will have a tiny home, then there'll be other size home builds, there'll be like forest features and all different kinds of builds, but it's all going to be in this one area like along the street. So that's my overall plan for this Let's Build series. So I think things are looking really good for the first two main areas. We have the main area, which is going to be like a living area kind of dining room. There'll be a table there with chairs for dinners, and then there's going to be like this private area. But now we're going to start making the main bedroom part of the treehouse. So this will be the third section. This will be actually the tallest, highest section. It'll probably go up another like, you know, 8 to 10 feet or so. This is going to be the main living quarters for whoever's living up there. It'll contain the bed, some chairs, a lookout point, and all different kinds of things like that. Now, I'm trying to keep this kind of as realistic as possible. I wanted to make sure that a lot of these platforms were being placed like on top of the actual tree trunk areas, so it wasn't just like these, you know, giant areas of wood that were extended over nothing with nothing holding them up. Like I wanted to have some sense of realism, like if you were building a real tree house. And I think I kind of accomplished that with the way I place stuff. You'll see there that the tree kind of goes through the center, but I actually do go back later and replace that with a piece of flooring that has a hole in it. So I think some of this stuff can be realistic. You'll see here that I start using walls, and that's for the main purpose of this being the bedroom, and it's also going to protect you from the weather and any outside environment forces that may come into play here. So if it's windy or stuff, the wall is going to protect you from that. And being a bedroom, I think it makes sense to have a wall here and not just the guardrails. Now the walls are pretty cool in my opinion. They obviously are prefabricated, and I don't know how realistic that would be for making a treehouse. Probably for a treehouse, you'd be more finding like scraps of wood and that kind of thing. I know that's how it was in Swiss Family Robinson, but since I have what's available to me in the packs, and in the packs I have these prefabricated walls, but I think they look really good for a treehouse because they're super worn. They're kind of like, you know, raggedy, and they don't look like a new home or anything like that. So when you take them out of that element and put them in a treehouse, I think it works really well. You can't really tell here, but I kind of start getting annoyed at the way these guardrails or walls here are being placed. I don't really like the shape of the way this balcony is turning out, but you can see like the overlap of the way some of this stuff fits together is just not making me very happy. So I start deleting things here, and I really change the structure or the way of the bedroom works out here. I make it bigger, and one of my original concerns was that it ended up being too big, but I think it looked nice in the end. I just wasn't happy with the original layout of it, but you'll see here a couple times I make some, not mistakes, but I just changed the way of what I wanted to do, because like I said, I originally had this drawn out and it didn't go all according to plan, so I just kind of did it on the fly. But I was happy with the way it turned out. I think one of the really cool things about Let's Build videos like this is that if the person creating them like leaves in some of their mistakes, because I could easily just go back and edit out all of this stuff and show you more of what the finished product looked like. But I think it's really neat to be able to see the kind of places where I mess up and what I changed, kind of just what's going on in my head, because you obviously can't see that, but I'll try to show it the best I can in the videos. So now we're getting into the roofing or, you know, ceiling type structures, and these are really cool. This was probably my favorite part of the build, and you can see these are kind of made out of like straw material kind of put together into like a roof. And I forgot which pack I got these out of, but it might have been some other type of island type pack. and I just think they've worked really well for a treehouse build. And for the main area, I put 2 of them together, and you can see here I'm just using like these support. These are actually some of the same support beams I was using for the ramps and everything below. So I just moved them over here. They're like, I think they're like 6 feet tall, and then I extended them a little bit, so maybe like 10 feet tall, but they work perfect for supporting the roofs. So now I'm just going back here and making some adjustments on this platform. It takes you to the bedroom. I'm also adding more guardrails so whoever lives here can feel a little more safe when they're going up to the bedroom after a night of eating and drinking or whatever they're doing in the main area. And here we're moving the roof structures over to the bedroom now. I think earlier I said up to 10 feet. I think it's a lot taller than that. I think it's probably like 15 feet to the top, or maybe even closer to like 18 feet, because I think it was 6 and then I multiplied it up by 3. Obviously, being, you know, a tree house, there are going to be some holes in the walls, and you know, things aren't going to be perfectly sealed. So I do my best here for the bedroom though to try to make sure I patch up those holes with other pieces of wood. And you know, being Unreal Engine, it works really well just to be able to, you know, resize some of these pieces, and it still looks like it doesn't even get stretched. And that was one of the things that really impresses me about Unreal Engine, is that you can, you know, resize some of these pieces and it never looks like it gets stretched. Like the size changes and it just still looks as great as it was in its original size. So that worked really well here for patching up these holes in the roof area. So with these holes just about patched up, I think it's going to be time to move on to the you know, this extra room I was telling you guys about, the second main platform. And I'll move the roof over there, and then we'll put up this final support. And I think it was kind of right about this time where I started feeling like, oh, maybe I bit off more than I can chew for this build, because it just started getting really tedious and tiresome. And I knew that even with this, now I still have to do all of the interior stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, the interior was a lot of fun to do. So to be honest with you, you know, I have I got like a couple like pirate packs, because I felt like the pirate theme of this just kind of, it just went together with the treehouse. And I know Swiss Family Robinson, I don't think it has too much pirate stuff, if it has any, but a lot of that stuff came from a ship, as if you probably already know. So I just felt like a pirate theme went really well with this, but I enjoyed putting like the dining room table and all this stuff together. I think it looks really, really cool. Now I wanted to make sure I didn't put really too much of any modern stuff in here. There's going to be a couple modern things you'll see later, but I wanted to keep the theme consistent with the pack. So, you know, these candles or these bottles of liquor or whatever kind of alcohol you would have in them, those go really well with the table. Just kind of put them out here. I'm not really sure what that platter was for. Maybe if you want to put some hors d'oeuvres or something on there, maybe I should have put something on it. Okay, so now these lanterns are actually super cool. I know I said I think the roof was my favorite part, but these lanterns are really cool because not only are they realistic looking, but I also actually later put, you know, point lights in here, and this becomes the main lighting for all the living areas above. Also, I think some kind of like dining room cabinet thing would go good here, where you could store your, you know, dishes or silverware in, and then a nice little side table over here. Now real quickly, I wanted to go up to this private area and put in like a private table where you could go and get a nice meal alone if you wanted to, or just kind of relax. Now what really brings all these areas together is just by putting in a carpet. You could add so much stuff in the actual living area, but once you put that carpet in, it just makes everything look perfect, like it was supposed to be there. And I think that style of carpet really goes well with the treehouse and this kind of pirate era type of build. But now I'm going to go through and make sure that I have these lanterns set up pretty much on every, I guess these would be like the support beams for the roofs or the ceiling areas. I just want to make sure that there's a lantern on each end here, because when I add the lights to this is what's going to be giving us the main lighting for our nighttime shots. So this was actually a bed frame from one of the modern packs, but I think just the color of the wood and the style, it really goes well with this era and can fit here. And of course this mattress is also from a modern bedroom pack, and the covers, but I don't have a problem putting it in with this build, because it's not, you know, even though it's super realistic, it's not 100% realistic. So I'm not saying like this is like a pirate build from the time of pirates and everything has to be from that era. So I wouldn't worry, but these chairs look really good. Just putting the chairs here on this balcony with this table. And then we have like a captain's desk, I think this is called. So whoever, doesn't have to be an actual captain, but whoever's living there can do some writing there. Then we have a chest of drawers. That's really nice. The wood goes through it. Okay, so this stuff is totally pirate stuff here. This is like a pirate captain's jacket or outfit, whatever you call it, and a pirate's hat. And then we're gonna add an actual looking glass or telescope with a gun. So that's totally pirate stuff. And I think it's at this point I really start feeling like I'm going crazy, because now I've realized this is more of like a pirate build, and this is totally just pirate themed. And so now I'm doing these what are those, like scimitars, or what do you call those kinds of swords? But that's what those are. So I put 2 of them here. Then I have this like sheath that I put in. I don't even know if this sheath is, you would actually display it like this by itself in one of these holders, but I probably should have put the sword in the sheath, but oh well. I needed to fill up the 3rd spot, so it looked good there. And then of course we have a giant treasure chest, and that would go perfect right at the foot of the bed. And then we have another kind of pirate themed chest of drawers that goes right here next to the bed. Yeah, I guess this pirate is just living it up, even with that old school globe on the dresser, because what pirate wouldn't need a old school globe, right? Now that mirror is really cool because it shows an actual reflection, but I want to warn you, when you're dealing with mirrors inside of Unreal Engine, and if you have ray trace shadowing and all that stuff turned on, mirrors can sometimes get really buggy, so be careful. So yeah, so this is a total pirate build now, and you can see I placed another gun, another revolver, along with that the looking glass there on the little table next to the chairs. Then we have a chandelier. I can't hang it well because I don't have a rope or chain, but then you see some boots. Okay, so now we're going back to the main dining area to decorate. There's another globe because you need globes if you're a pirate, and some more alcohol because pirates like to drink. And oh yeah, the carpet. The carpets, like I said, they really bring everything together. So that's why I have 3 of those carpets. And then we have these little boxes. Those little boxes contain who knows what kind of pirate stuff, but another looking glass and another gun. So there's 3 guns in here. So Chuck needs to watch out, because if he's not careful, he could get shot down there in his tiny home. Just kidding. Okay guys, so that's the end of the build. I want you to all see the final scenes I have here. I added some Fluid Flux, little lake water simulation action. I added a bunch of vegetation. I added some awesome tiki torches, and they give off great illumination. And check out the top parts of the treehouse. You know, all the lanterns are lighting the scenes. So I was really surprised with the way this one turned out, guys. You know, I got really frustrated. Like I said, I was going insane towards the end of this build, but I just love the way how everything turned out. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and if you liked it, please subscribe and like the video. I'm going to be doing a lot more builds like this in the future. I'm also going to be getting back to my recreating Lost Island pretty soon here, probably for the next video, so tune into those too. But until next time, I'll see you on the next episode of Let's Get Unreal.